Fleamarketdepot.com. That's right. We're all about issuing bonds, helping companies raise capital, and helping creditors. So what is it about issuing bonds? Bonds is a great way for corporations to keep their equity and to attract large number of lenders in an effective manner and raise capital for the project that they're wanting to build. So here at bondsheets.com, we target startups. There's a lot of startups that are happening, and here in Houston, Texas, with the oil boom that just went to bust, well, we're finding out more and more startups are coming around and they're trying to raise capital. Well, Kickstart and all those guys, they're a great way to raise capital. But I mean think about it though. Have you ever looked and done research on how many Kickstarter projects fail? They'll promise you the world. They'll promise you that widget for a really great deal. But what about their delivery? You know, most companies they've got a great idea and they're trying to raise funds. Most of the time, they're just not delivering the promise that they're at. And so you've given away, your hard-earned money to these projects that never come about. So what is about bonds? Well, unlike an investor, if a company goes bankrupt, you lose all your money. Now, if you're a creditor, though, you're the second person to get paid in a Chapter 11 or Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Yeah, well, the first person is the lawyer, of course. So that's the bad thing. But I've got a lot of good friends who are lawyers, and they're taking a look at why am I trying to make the bond industry so transparent. Well, it's not sexy like it used to be. I mean, think about it. Bond guys, you're able to make $40,000, $50,000 a day. And, and how's that? Well, let's take a look. For instance, you might have a company that's asking for a bond, and its credit is an A rating or double A rating at best. Well, I can come in and say, listen, I'm interested in your $20 bond at $15. And if I'm buying maybe a few 100,000 shares, well, that's no big deal. The guy's going to say, okay, what's your name? And just give me the check. Now, I can come in the next day and say, listen, I just bought 100,000 shares at $15. Now, what about, I get an investor, a creditor says, I'm interested in a company that does X, Y, and Z, which is something that I just purchased, a day before, and he's willing to pay $18 for it. Well, I can make $30,000 in a day, and which is not a bad deal. So bonds are like used cars. Even though they say they're institutionalized and they're trying to make it more, the feds are trying to do something with bonds. I mean, really? The guys up at Wall Street are just creating a different name and a different term for the same transaction that's been making them money for years. So that's the neat thing about bonds. You can make a lot of money, and you're pretty much safe if a company goes out of business to retain your money back. So why should a startup who's trying to raise capital look into bonds? Well, you can go to a bank, and that's true, but of course they're going to ask for 20-30% interest on a loan, and they're going to expect you to pay it back within a month or two, As where a bond, you have a grace period that you can negotiate. And then once everything is settled, then you can actually start, you can pay that money back to the creditors and save yourself a lot of time and hassle of using that money that you've raised to put your full attention in the project that you've created. And then when you sell or when you buy back the bonds that you've sold, then you didn't lose your shirt. You didn't lose the equity in your company. That's pretty much the biggest deal. You can go to a venture capitalist, but they're going to ask for equity in your company. And if your company is the hottest thing since sliced bread, why would you want to sell equity in your company and not reap the full rewards of your hard work and your idea? That's just my take on it. I mean, I've seen more great ideas get swallowed up by venture capitalists because they'll take 51% of the company, and the guy who just created this great idea and been working his whole life towards loses it. You know what? You try to tell them you just need to go out there and maybe get a small, business loan. But, unlike bonds and investments, sexy and sweet and has all the right aromas. Bonds doesn't have that. But as a startup, though, I'd rather create bonds for my company, pay off the debt at a lower interest rate, and keep the equity that I have in my company. Now, as an investor, it's like I said, it's a safe bet. If Chapter 11 comes through because some misfortune happens in the company, at least you'll retain your money. You'll get most of it back. Unlike, if you're putting all your money in the stock market and it drops, 1,000 points in a week, then you just lost it all. So what can I say? Hey, speaking about bonds and raising money, we have a company called Fleamarketdepot.com. Flea Market Depot is one of those companies that came to us and said we need to raise $2 million for a couple mobile apps, marketing, and personnel. They have a solid business plan, but it's one of those plans to where in about 2-3 years, they plan on selling the business after its name gets out there, and the investors or the creditors will receive their money. So this is pretty much a strong rating on stating that whoever invests in these guys, to buy some of their projects, they'll receive their money back, guaranteed. So we gave them a AA rating because we felt strong in what they were doing, their sellout plan, and the people that are working for them. Real smart, real intelligent. They're just going to help the flea market industry and get it organized and make it look like a viable business instead of, Joe's garage, down the street. Actually, I know a guy named Joe down the street, and his garage looks like a mess. I'm not sure if it's him or because his daughter moved back home from college. But I digress. He's a great guy. He needs to sell some of the stuff, though. I don't know. Whatever the situation is, it's pretty neat. But anyways, that's it with LaunchThese.com. Have a great day.